In today's economy, every ad dollar counts. That's why performance marketers are turning to Rocked Ads to reach over 400 million active shoppers in the transaction moment when they're completing a purchase online. You only pay when customers engage. Learn more at rocked.com/emarketer. That's ROKT.com/emarketer. Hello, listeners. Today is Wednesday, May 14th. Welcome to Behind the Numbers, Reimagining Retail, an eMarketer show made possible by Rocked. This is the show where we talk about how retail collides with every part of our lives. I'm your host, Sara Lebow. Today's episode topic is generative AI in retail. Let's meet today's guests. Joining me for today's episode, we have one of our analysts from our retail desk, Carina Perkins. Hey, Carina.
Hi, Sarah. Thanks for having me back.
Thanks for being here. And also as an analyst from over on our tech desk, Yory Wurmser. Hey, Yory.
Hey, Sarah.
Welcome back to the podcast.
Great to be here.
Okay, let's talk about generative AI, everyone's favorite and least favorite topic. I'm going to start with setting the stage. Last week, Mark Zuckerberg said, marketing is dead. Well, at least he said it's dying. Mark Zuckerberg said, in a way, Facebook's AI tool is kind of like the ultimate business results machine. I think Meta's AI marketing tools will be one of the most important, valuable AI systems that gets built. He essentially said that Facebook's AI, Meta's AI, is going to be able to do all of marketing without marketers having to do anything. Around the same time, Amazon released Nova Act, an AI agent that can independently perform actions, moving us further toward AI agents buying on consumers' behalf. And also happening around the same time, ChatGPT started surfacing product recommendations in its feed. So I'm going to start with a basic / not basic question that I'm going to make both of you answer. True or false, generative AI in retail will change how people shop? Carina, you're writing the report on this, so true or false?
Yeah, I think true in a lot of ways. I think it's already having some influence on how people shop. Will we see the extremes that some people are predicting or Zuckerberg would like to see is perhaps a different question. I think he's also just said that we're going to replace all of our friends with AI.
He did.
So that's another interesting point. But I think what we're really seeing here is that AI is causing a little bit of a shift in the kind of shopping landscape. And we're seeing tech companies really go for a kind of grab of commerce rather than just supporting it. They really want to become part of the shopper journey and own the commerce themselves. And I think that's probably where we're going to see the biggest shifts happening in the next couple of years.
That makes sense. I mean, tech companies have been trying to own commerce since their inception. Yory, true or false, generative AI will change how people shop?
True, although I agree with Carina that Zuckerberg's comment is probably going to go down with his predictions about the metaverse. I definitely think, speaking specifically about marketing, that all parts of the marketing stage are going to be transformed by AI and agents. Marketers will still want control, and the same thing is true of consumers. They're still going to want to be the final decision maker on a lot of purchases, most purchases, probably almost all purchases. There are going to be a lot of changes, but a lot is still going to stay the same.
Okay, so let's start with current state. Carina, you're writing about this right now. How is generative AI already being used along the shopper journey?
Yeah, it's being used pretty much everywhere from discovery through to delivery. So we're seeing people using AI for kind of AI-generated ad campaigns, product recommendation, AI search, customer service, review summaries, and even loyalty perks. But it's not without friction. So we're seeing implementation of those tools are being met with slightly different consumer responses. And also what we're seeing is that there's a lot of focus on the kind of marketing and the discovery element from brands when consumers are actually most interested in AI solving those post-purchase pain points.
No, Carina's exactly, I think, on point on both points. Discovery, I think, has been affected to some extent, and definitely the consideration phase is already being affected by generative search.
Yeah, and generative AI is also obviously helping on the back end already. I think that's where it's most useful, merchandising, things like that, where customers can't see it because this is something that you wrote, Yory, in a report that technologists may be underestimating how much a lot of consumers don't like AI in their journey.
The pace of development of the technology, the underlying technology, is just mind-blowing. Every day, there's not one advanced or a couple advances. We're going to get to the point not that long from now where you'll be able to buy things automatically, easily. I'm unsure how quickly consumers are going to trust that. That I think is going to be the biggest factor holding back automated buying.
I think Yory's got a really good point there. And it's not just how much they're going to trust it, but it's how much they want it. Because I think if we're talking about completely automating shopping, we are forgetting that some people enjoy the shopping process and they get endorphins from buying things. They enjoy the discovery. So I think that, again, maybe that's slightly underestimated, how much people actually still really want an active role in shopping.
Yeah. And what we're getting at here is agentic AI. Agentic AI is when AI moves from being like a co-pilot or a helper for the end user to being the actual entity making decisions, and in this case, making purchase decisions on behalf of the user. Did I get that definition right, Yory?
Yeah, I mean, it's a task-oriented program that does what you want it to do.
So how do retailers and technologists expect agentic AI will impact the shopper journey? How do you guys expect it will impact the shopper journey?
Technologists envision a future where these agents will anticipate what you want, will suggest things for you, or even buy things for you if it's time sensitive or it's something that's somewhat routine, and will help you pretty much in every stage of the shopper journey.
And what am I doing in the meantime? Am I just like working more? Like, what am I up to during that time?
Yeah, I mean, it frees you. I think the thought is it frees you from the parts of shopping you don't want to do. And I actually think some people will really buy into it. The question is how many people. I have no doubt that there are going to be millions of early adopters that will be really into this stuff. But others, I'm not so sure about.
It will really depend on what you're buying. So it's great for auto replenishment. It's great for things that are boring to buy, diapers, dog food, things like that. But it's perhaps less exciting for things where the kind of discovery and the research is more emotional. So clothing and things like that. So I think it's really going to have a different impact depending on what kind of products we're talking about.
Yeah, I see it as useful for maybe like industrial shopping, buying supplies for an office, for example. Even for replenishment, though, I mean, not everyone uses subscribe and save on Amazon, and that is available to them. If people aren't using that, then why would Amazon believe those people might use a robot that then picks what they're subscribing to and saving on, essentially?
It does reduce customer control a little bit, and transparency is going to be really key here, because there is a potential that it's going to reward whoever has the best AI integration rather than what is the best product for the consumer. And I think unless there's a real transparency around how it's coming to conclusions or coming up with decisions and products and suggestions, that's actually just really going to put consumers off, because things like kind of sponsored product listings are already creating a little bit of friction. And I think if consumers feel that they're just being served something which is just, repetitive or not actually the best product for them, that's going to be a real problem.
Yeah, I mean, let's talk more about problems. What is something in generative AI in retail that you each feel is being overhyped right now?
Yeah, I mean, just to go back what I said earlier, I do think there are going to be some people who will be fine having automated buying, but I think in general that's overhyped. I think especially older consumers are going to be pretty hesitant about that. So yeah, that's, I think, the area for me that is the most overhyped.
I'm going to be a bit controversial here, and it's not because I don't think it's a brilliant thing. I just think that it's not happening yet. And that's seamless personalization. Mm-hmm. So that is possible. That is the great sort of future potential of AI. But at the moment, according to consumer surveys, we're still seeing that AI is guessing wrong, or it's overselling, or it's kind of bombarding users with ads that they don't want. There was one survey that found 1 in 5 consumers say that recommendations are still way off base. And so I think until that personalization is really honed and effective and accurate, I think that is a little bit hyped at the moment.
I agree with both of you. I think it's an important time to remember that 80% of shopping still happens in store. So even what we're talking about right now, for the time being at least, is 20% of shopping, which is a huge amount. This is in the US, which is a huge amount, but it's a fraction of shopping, and we're going to be talking about a fraction of that fraction.
But you know what? Agentic AI is also going to have a big impact in store.
Oh, say more.
And it can already do that. Just if, let's say you take ChatGPT, you take a picture of a shelf and a product on the shelf, it can give you reviews. It can tell you the price that you can get elsewhere. So even in-store shopping can be changed pretty fundamentally through agents.
I'm going to put that in the bucket of one thing retailers and brands aren't paying enough attention to with generative AI, which is what I was going to ask you next.
Carina, you had something to say, I think, on that one too?
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, I totally agree with that. I think it's sort of potentially in-store is really interesting and that kind of omnichannel piece. But again, I think it's convincing consumers to use the tool. So it's kind of changing that shopping habit. And that can be slow, but I think it will be quite transformative once it does start happening.
I think something that is going to inhibit adoption is also the fragmentation in this process. So yeah, if you have a chatbot through Amazon, then that can be integrated with Amazon products. That can be integrated across like parts of the open web as well. But ultimately, like you're limited to Amazon. We already have all of these walled gardens that we struggle to work in between. There's not really any reason an AI agent would change that. In fact, I think a lot of companies are going to be even more cautious about keeping their walled garden walled in.
Yeah, and I think that also speaks to a broader point about the need for better data infrastructure generally. Without really clean, structured product and customer data, Gen AI agents going to fall flat. So I think, that data readiness really needs to accelerate.
I mean, one counter argument to that is if a general kind of a universal agent takes off, something like a superpowered Siri,
or like a ChatGPT,
or a ChatGPT that's actually the main interface you have with your phone, that could break down some of those barriers in the walled gardens, because then it becomes the orchestrator. I mean, it will send you to the right walled garden for whatever that need is.
Yeah, I mean, a fair criticism of what I'm saying here that a technologist would probably say is that I am not thinking big enough. I'm thinking small and I'm thinking current. On that note, what is one thing retailers and brands aren't paying enough attention to with regard to generative AI right now?
So I would say the post-purchase experience. So as I said in my report, what I really found was there's been several studies that's showing a bit of a gap between where retailers are focusing their attention on AI, which is the kind of top of the funnel, and where consumers really want that additional help and see the value in AI. So I think, simplifying returns, offering smarter loyalty programs, tracking deliveries. And I really think the retailers that use AI to kind of fix some of those problems are going to be the winners.
I'm going to go with the impact of generative search and these agentic tools. That's going to have a big impact, first of all, on some of the more, the importance of things like reviews and price, because they'll be ingested and synthesized by these generative search engines. So, optimizing for search, paying attention to things like reviews and objective criteria, product specs, I think are going to make a bigger difference than they currently do. And in kind of an extension of that, I think there's going to be a lot more price competition. Price competition.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if you can pick out the cheapest high quality item, then that'll push the prices down, theoretically.
Yeah, I think further to Yory's point as well, brands need to be thinking about how they're optimizing their websites and their data so that it is optimized for these Gen AI tools. You want to make sure that you're going to be discoverable in ChatGPT's shopping, however you do that. I
sound like such a Luddite here, but if we have agents making shopping decisions on behalf of us on websites where agents are making merchandising decisions, like, what's the point? Like, what are we up to? What am I doing?
Yeah, I mean, so I think if you focus on the parts of shopping you don't like, and that's, I think, what will disappear most quickly because there's an obvious need. But if you're shopping for a car, you're right. You do want to spend the time to actually like go through it, try different things, like research deeper and deeper. So you'll still be doing stuff, but the stuff that you most want to do, and theoretically you can get rid of the stuff that's tedious.
Yeah, even like retail, I think a big part of shopping that people don't like is like looking at their body in a mirror over and over again in different clothing. Can an AI agent help that? I don't know.
Not yet, but yeah, probably one day, right? I mean, we have AR, there's kind of all those capabilities when they come together have the potential to completely transform the shopping experience.
Yeah, these virtual try-on tools are forms of generative AI.
That's a fair point. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it could, and as they get better and better, it definitely could reduce some of that.
Yeah, of course, you'll have to have virtual try-on tools that can report. This is like what you said with specs that can report accurately on size. We've talked before on this podcast about how it seems like sizing is a mess right now. Measurements are a mess. That has to do with production quality. So like, yeah, and theoretically, like generative AI can fix that too. But we're talking about like a massive system where everyone needs to be bought in. And we're definitely not there yet.
No, and I think, again, this comes back to a broader point of it's very easy to get obsessed with the new shiny tool.
Yeah.
And yes, we will have these AI agents that can automatically purchase something for somebody, but are consumers actually more concerned about the little frustrations in their day-to-day life with the shopping? Yes. So like I would recommend that people use technology first to address those frictions and make it as seamless as possible, because that's what consumers face in their day-to-day life, and that's going to be the bigger result in the end, I think.
Okay, so Carina's advice to retailers is focus on day-to-day frictions, make experience seamless for consumers.
Yeah, focus on the basics, get the basics right. And once you've got the basics right, then you can start looking at kind of wonderful, transformative new shopping experiences.
That was Carina's one piece of advice. I think my advice right now, as these kinds of search engines become more popular in shopping, is to pay really close attention to how people are talking about your brands across the internet, in reviews, on social media, and honestly, and particularly on Reddit, which is a place that a lot of AI is scraping from, and is a place where a lot of people talk about brands.
That's a great one.
Yeah, no, that's excellent. You guys took the two best ones. I'm going to say, just focus on first party data. I mean, this is just a kind of an evergreen quote, but first party data is going to, first of all, help you design the products that you want. It's going to help you market better. It's probably going to help you, without the first party data, your own internal GenAI and internal agent tools aren't going to work well. And personalization is going to be much harder.
Great. All right, well, that is all we have time for today. Thank you to our listeners and to our team that edits the podcast. They're always generating a great podcast. We'll be back next Wednesday with another episode of Reimagining Retail, an eMarketer podcast. And on Friday, join Marcus for another episode of the Behind the Numbers Show, an eMarketer podcast made possible by Rocked.